Hello everybody, welcome to our Championship 26-27 predictions for the league table. We have a few new additions this year, yet another summer has gone, and we are on the cusp of the season again with cup football this weekend. But obviously this is a Championship channel, and we really wanted to do content this week, so we're going to hit you with our predictions. So our new additions is West Ham, Wolves and Burnley from the Premier League. And from League One, it's Bolton, Cardiff, and Lincoln. How's it feel to get all those new faces?
Yes, well, firstly, welcome back to Burnley. More importantly than everyone else. Um, Welcome Lincoln. 61 years? I think it's more than that. Um, yeah, they'll be excited for their journey ahead. They're away at Middlesbrough, who lost in the playoff final on the first day, so that's a very tough test for them. But they'll be much looking forward to the season ahead.
Yeah, definitely. A very, very admirable season for Lincoln's point of view last season. Maybe would you say define the odds?
Uh, I think expected for them to have a decent season, but yeah, they nobody expected them to break 100 points the way they did. They're still unbeaten since was it November, which is incredible. So can they keep that up? That's the real question.
That's the thing. It's a new season, and momentum can go quickly. They're going to need to have a good start if they want to maintain some momentum. We also got Cardiff back in the league after a 1 year hiatus. And of course, we've got Bolton back in the league after so many years. After so many playoff attempts, they finally back. It's good to have a club like Bolton back. They're a big club, and it's going to be interesting to see how Bolton get on. Without further ado, shall we get on with our 1 to 24? So for this video, we're going to go from 24th upwards. And how about you start us off with 24th? What is your 24th prediction, Liam?
Oh, you've stitched me up here. My Wi-Fi's playing up. You've stitched me up here. I'm unfortunately you don't want to put anyone in 24th, and this might already be a bit of a whoa. Hang on. But I've gone for, I feel like it's long overdue now, Blackburn Rovers. Um, I'll explain why. Tony Mowbray, brilliant manager, but obviously we know what happened at Birmingham. His stint was cut short due to illness. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but is he really the same manager after that? And we don't need to speak about Blackburn's owners any more than everyone else has. I think losing Tronstad as well is a big miss, big hit in the gut, and they're just not bringing in players. Um, so it's I feel like doom and gloom upcoming for Blackburn.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Blackburn, because here's something for you. If there wasn't a points deduction for West Brom and Leicester, it would have been Blackburn that went down last season. So Blackburn definitely among the relegation candidates. But for 24th, it's horrible. It's a horrible place to put someone because it just feels like so harsh, and especially like this year, now that Sheffield Wednesday have gone, there's no like dead cert for 24th position. So either way, you're going to get crucified. Um, my pick for 24th, I'm probably going to give a slight edge to Charlton here. Charlton, I think they struggled towards the back end of last season, and I'm not going to lie, I've not been convinced by their signings or by their pre-season. Because I saw recently, I think they lost 3-0 to Reading. It's not exactly the type of form that you're going to want going into a championship season. I think genuinely, on paper, they're one of the weaker squads in the division, and I think I worry for Charlton. I think there'll be a second season syndrome. Now, 23rd. What is your pick?
Well, I Before Scubala left, I would have backed Lincoln to stay up, but I've had them 23rd. I just feel like the two manager thing won't work, and it's a shame. I really want them to stay up because it's just nice to see an underdog progress up the leagues and manage to stay there, unless you're Wrexham. Um, so with Lincoln, I'm sorry to say, but I think 23rd, as I said, I don't think this double management will work out, and chances are one of them, if not both, could be gone at some point throughout the season if things do not go well.
So for my 23rd pick, I have picked Blackburn. I feel like Blackburn they're very on and off team. I know there's ownership problems, but when people doubt them before, they all of a sudden have a really good season. So it's a really tough place with Blackburn because they could all of a sudden just end up sixth or something. But last season they just about got over the line. They definitely have players there who could fire them to survival, but I genuinely do think the next few will be like really tight to determine. I just think with Blackburn, their luck is going to run out eventually, and their ownership will catch up to them, and I've got them down as a 23rd place finish. Now, for 22nd.
Well, considering promoted teams have done really well in the last 3-4 seasons, they've all stayed up after 1 year. For me to go another team who have just come up is a bit of a risky statement, but the lack of confidence I have in Cardiff is unimaginable. Fine, they finished second. Very, very good young team, but they've done nothing in this transfer window. Like, no changes in or out, which might work out, and it might, this prediction might be me shooting myself in the foot. But I think you've got to make signings when you're coming up from League One. The gap isn't absolutely massive, but you can't try and get away without making many signings. It's just not going to work. And Cardiff, let's be real, should have won League One. Absolutely bottled it. Let's be honest. So I'm not convinced by Cardiff, but the next three teams I have above them, I think also have a fair shout.
With my 22nd place pick, it's a really tough one. I was torn on two teams, but I've decided to put Lincoln in 22nd. I really do think Lincoln will battle it and take it to the final day. I really do think they're perfectly capable of survival, and I wouldn't be shocked if they do stay up. But I think on paper, losing Skubala is what knocks them down a few spots for me. If I would have done this when he was still there, I probably would have backed them to just about stay up. But
yeah, I would have.
Because of him going, the two manager one, it's going to be interesting how that dynamic works, because I don't remember the last time a club had two managers. You could maybe argue the Cowley brothers. I don't know. Speaking of, they were ex-Lincoln as well. So, Lincoln has a duo sort of project going on. I think on paper, their squad, it's a good squad, good for League One. But the question is, will they make the cut to the Championship? I believe Moylan is on his way out, and he's a player that's gonna need to be replaced. So Lincoln, because of their transfers, I think they won't be able to spend the likes of Bolton, Cardiff, not as much as those. So I think that's why I've put them in 22nd, just about. So for my bottom three, I've got Charlton, Blackburn, and Lincoln. Now, just staying up in 21st.
Oh, you're gonna make me do it again, are you?
Yeah, you're always first.
Oh right. Oh god. It's not going to look good in a little while. I've gone 21st, which I don't think should be a shock, but I've gone for Watford. Um, I think the owners are absolutely mental. Um, as we know, it's been 14 years, and they've had about 262 managers. So I think with Watford, I don't even know who their manager is at the moment. It's just always they're always chopping and changing. Alessio Dionisi, know nothing of him. Um, he was appointed in June, probably sacked in September. Knowing Watford, losing, I really rated Chak Vitadze, the midfielder. What 25, 26. So to get rid of him to Udinese, shock, is I think going to be a real blow. And I don't know if they're going to replace him. If they lose Irin Kunda as well, that's another one big loss. If they keep hold of him, he might be just enough to might help just enough to keep Watford up.
So for my 21st place prediction, I've got Cardiff. I think, yeah, they got promoted last season, but it was a sort of expectation in a way. Maybe they weren't expected to absolutely romp the league, but in the end, they got over the line pretty comfortably. But at times, they have looked very shaky defensively in League One, and in the Championship, that's something that you're not going to get away with. Cardiff had a couple of decent pre-season results. I saw they beat Roma 4-1 or something like that. But they also lost 6-0 in pre-season to Midtjylland. So it's an interesting one with Cardiff. I think the potential is there for them to have a good season. They're a big club. I reckon they will have some money to spend. But in terms of like the squad, I think I'm going to agree with you. I'm not very optimistic, but I think they'll just claw over the line in 21st. Now, for 20th place.
I've moved them up a few spots from where you had them. I've gone Charlton. I just think the way Nathan Jones has his team playing football, it would be enough to scrap results against clubs who are also down there, the likes of Cardiff, Lincoln, Blackburn, anyone else that you can think of. I think, yeah, they haven't done a lot in the transfer window. Well, they have, but they also haven't. They've made a couple of good signings. But I think they should be trying to go for other players, not like players who play for Luton. So if Nathan Jones can, move on to a different club, they could. The transfer window's still got a month or so they could very well push their way out of it. But the way they stumbled over the finish line last season, I'm worried they'd do the same again.
So for my 20th place pick, I've got Bolton. I think I back Bolton to be the best out of the 3 promoted teams. A very good playoff campaign last season. It was something that the club definitely needed after so many years away from the Championship. And it's definitely a welcome addition. I think Bolton will, in early season, ride on a lot of that momentum from winning the playoffs. Sort of like what Oxford were when they went up that year, and they had a really good start to their first season in the Championship. I think that's got the markings of Bolton as well. I think over the general campaign they'll be mostly comfortable with maybe a slip towards the end. I've got them 20th. Now, 19th.
19th, I've gone Preston. I really considered having them a bit lower, potentially 22nd, but it's just a pure fact that Paul Heckingbottom has made it well known that he's not happy with recruitment. Alfie Devine signing permanently, I think it is, for, I want to say 5 million. That's brilliant for them, but they've also signed 2 other players, and that's it. They've done nothing else. They've lost far more than they've brought in. And I just feel like the way Preston are going as a club, they're not progressing at all. They're going the other way, which is closer towards that dotted line.
So for my 19th place pick, I've got Watford. I think as well that Watford will struggle this season. Towards the back end of last season, their form was atrocious. Instability at that club. Managers 24/7. The only real player that I think is decent there is Iran Kunda. And I just think all of that instability is something that will catch up to Watford. I've said it since the end of last season. Watford will be a team that could struggle this season. They could well finish mid-table or like maybe push for playoffs. There's potential in there. But I just think as the time goes on, as it develops, I think they will get dragged closer to League One, to be honest. But for this season, I do have them tipped to survive in 19th. Now, your 18th place pick.
Yeah, it does feel like a matter of time before Watford are dragged down into relegation mess, but it's also been a matter of time since we've seen Bolton back in the Championship. I've gone 18th place for them on their return after 7 years away. I just think Schumacher's a good manager. I just think they're destined for a nice little season. Nothing out of this world, not like an Ipswich when they first came back up. But I just think Bolton, just have a solid year.
So for my 18th place pick, I've gone for Stoke. I think Stoke, it's an interesting one. I think it was last season was a bit of a false dawn for them, to be totally honest. They had a perfectly good start. Everybody was tipping them for promotion, thinking like Prime Barclays is back, Stoke's going back up, just for them to finish 17th. They had quite a fall off at the end of last season, and I just think it'll be same old Stoke, to be honest. Just languish in the bottom half, be just enough away to not be worried of relegation, but also be far away from the playoffs. I just don't really have much else to say about Stoke than 18th. Now, your 17th place pick.
17th, I've got climbing a place, Portsmouth. They're making a lot of signings, which is good to see. Spending money, which is something we don't see from them. But my concern is, who are any of them? Like, this could be an epic success or an epic failure. I think it'll just be neither. I think it'll just be Portsmouth are here, 17th.
You know what? I've put Portsmouth 17th as well. We've both put Portsmouth 17th. I think realistically for Portsmouth, you're looking at that range of 16th and 20th. I think things can go wrong for Portsmouth and they could end up in the bottom three. But I think squad-wise, on paper, they should be comfortable-ish. I don't think they'll be miles away from relegation. Last season they were struggling for a lot of the season, had very good form towards the back end of the season to finish 18th. And I just think it'll be another season in that range again. I think the signings that they're making, do they warrant all the money they're suddenly spending? I don't know. Only time will tell. But for Portsmouth, again, I think it'll be just another season of relying on Fratton Park. So they are my pick for 17th. Now, 16th.
Yeah, I've not gone far off with another club you've already said, but I don't understand Stoke's business here. As good a player Galbraith is, why is he leaving Swansea for Stoke for 10 million? Doesn't make sense to me. And that's a big signing to make for a club who will probably not be any higher than mid-table. So an interesting decision. If they lose Silver Thomas as well, Stoke, then probably knock him down a few places. But yeah, I think Stoke is just, they've been like this for 8 years now. They'll be down in the bottom half, doing not a lot, just being annoying to other clubs with some results, I suppose. But can I just say as well, irrelevant to anything, how bad is Stoke's new badge?
It's not a fan at all, to be totally honest. I preferred the old badge by a mile. But I guess it's more of like a retro badge, isn't it? I think I've seen Stoke fans prefer the new badge because of its old meaning. So I suppose it's a game of opinions, isn't it, with that badge? Right, my 16th place prediction. I have got Preston. I just think 16th is a place that seems very Preston. They are spending money, as you mentioned, with the Divine transfer. They've always been like a historically low spending club, so it's interesting to see them start to change their strategy a bit. It could well bring Preston up the table, but I still think on paper they're probably around 16th, to be honest. They could well go into trouble, but I think it'll be another season of them being around mid-table. Yeah, Preston 16th. Now, 15th.
15th, I've gone QPR. Like, there's a couple of good signings in there. Tariq Lamptey's a good signing on a free transfer as well. I like that one. Pierce Charles on loan, so looking quite strong in goal. But the problem is, what else can Julian Stefan do with the squad he has? I'm not sure he can do much else because they've had more money come in than they've spent, and unfortunately, in the Championship, it needs to be the other way around. You can make profits in another way, but if you're getting money come in, you need to spend it.
I've gone QPR in 15th as well. So we've got two bang-on predictions so far, or matching. QPR's always been that sort of team around mid-table since they've gone down from the Premier League. They definitely have some very good players in there. They're certainly capable of getting very good wins, especially at home. And I am definitely liking the business that QPR is doing. But I just think it's... the higher we go, it's going to be more difficult to tell the difference between those. Because I really do think 15th to like 9th, for example, could have an outside shot of the playoffs because now it's been extended to 8 teams. So there's definitely the prospect of QPR challenging for playoffs, but I just think they will probably fall short at 15th. Now, 14th, who is your pick?
I think some people would tip them to massively improve from the underwhelming season that they had, but I've gone Sheffield United to finish in 14th. They're just not doing anything, are they? They're getting rid of a couple of players, bringing in a couple of players, and it's just... I'm not sure if Chris Wilder's plan is really visible, but I'm not. I'm looking at this and I'm just not so sure this is the season for Sheffield United.
So for my 14th place pick, I've gone for Swansea. Swansea's another one of those clubs where they seem to be around the mid-table area, especially in the last few seasons. They did challenge, I think it was COVID, but since then there hasn't really been that much from Swansea, to be totally honest. They've just been there around 12th. But they definitely, because of the expanded playoffs, again, Swansea could be another team that benefit from this, and they might throw the kitchen sink at it. But I think on paper, they'll be in the bottom half, 14th for Swansea. Now, 13th place.
Well, this is a club that many people will be backing to do as well as they did a couple of years ago, purely because of the signings made. But I think from probably 7th all the way down to 13th could be not a lot of points in it. And we mentioned this man, Michael Skubala, earlier on. Bristol City, I've got 13th. Good manager, yes. can he do it at Bristol City where the owner Lansdowne is a little bit silly at times? That's the real concern. I still think it was wrong they got rid of Struber. Obviously their form was declining, but I liked what I saw from them, minus games where they got battered, especially at home. But I think if something goes wrong at any point in the season for Bristol City, Skubala's gone, and I'm not so keen on that idea. The signings are made, like Tolai, for example, from Plymouth, brilliant signing, but does that matter when you've got an impatient owner?
So for my 13th place pick, I've got West Brom. I think last season was definitely one of an outlier for West Brom. But they were very, very poor last season and quite lucky to stay up in the end, to be totally honest. People are saying that they'll be challenging for playoffs. I don't think... I mean, 13th, it's not that far off 8th. I just think they'll need a season or two to build back up towards the playoffs. And I feel like 13th is a fair one for them. I don't think they have the quality to get into the playoffs, and they still need to make some signings if they want to have even a sniff of the playoffs. But I do think there'll be a significant improvement in the table. So West Brom are my pick for 13th. Now, 12th.
No, now this might not be a popular one. I've got Millwall. I think if there was a season for Millwall to get promotion, it was last season, with the whole Southampton Middlesbrough fiasco. But lo and behold, Hull out of nowhere made it to the Premier League. Millwall, I mean, they couldn't do a lot in the last game of the season. It was all in Ipswich's hands, and Millwall did their bit, but so did Ipswich. So to not even reach Wembley, that's a big blow. And I just think, as I said, last season was the perfect season for Millwall. Quality is a lot better this year, with the sides coming down, with some of the sides who stayed down. So I think this is one where Millwall just struggle a little bit.
So for my 12th place pick, I have gone Bristol City. I'm pretty sure that is exactly where they finished last season, or very close to where they finished last season. Apart from the season before, Bristol City have always been a sort of 12th place club, to be totally honest. I look at their squad and I just think that they don't quite have the quality to go into the top 8. And it'd be interesting to... You know what? Skubala is a good manager, but it's whether they back him. Because with Skubala, it took him a few years at Lincoln to get things going and to take them up. He's going to need a similar time frame at Bristol City. The question is, like you mentioned with the owners, will they give him 2 or 3 years to build a squad? I'm not sure. I think Skubala's first season will be okay. I think Skubala's more about 2 or 3 years' time, to be honest. But yeah, Bristol City is my pick in 12th. Now, what about 11th?
Well, you may have noticed I have moved, but in 11th I have the unmoved Swansea City. I like Matos, good manager. Took a few games when he was first appointed to get going. But yeah, he's proven his worth. As mentioned earlier, Galbraith selling him for 10 million, that's brilliant business, even if it's to a lower in the table side, which still is weird, but it's good business. They haven't lost Vipotnik yet. If they do, that's still in the unknown a little bit, but I think Swansea will be a little bit angry if they don't reach the playoffs, if things stay how they are. But I just think they don't have, other than Vipotnik, they don't have that oomph about them.
For my 11th place pick, I've gone for Sheffield United. Last season wasn't a good season for them. to be totally honest. Wilder came in, steadied the ship, and took them to 13th, was it? 13th place, roughly. Again, the 16 format of the playoffs will benefit Sheffield United as well. It gives them an increased chance of getting in the playoffs, even in a relatively underwhelming season. I think their expectations will be lowered a bit because of last season, but I do think they do have the potential to be up there again. But with this season, I think they're going to need one more season for a rebuild. So they are my pick for 11th. Now we enter the top 10. The teams right in the playoff mix. And I shall pass this to you.
10th, I've gone West Brom. I really like their business. They've gotten rid of a few older players and brought in younger. So they're trying to lower the average age. I will be honest, the signings they have made are not world beaters, but they very well could be. You never know. But with West Brom, they should not have been nearly relegated last year. But whatever happened, and they've got to move on from it. And 10th is probably the lowest they will want to be all season. I think a top half finish is absolutely minimal and right at the bottom line of their expectations. So I've gone 10th, massive improvement. But this, as I said, when talking about 13th place, this could be really, really tight.
Yeah. For my 10th place pick, I have gone for Birmingham City. I haven't got them to move, to be totally honest. I think their squad, I know they have the money, I know they can spend the money, but at the moment, on paper, I think their squad is roughly around that. They'll fight for playoffs, they'll get close, but I think it's going to be another one where they miss out, to be totally honest. Is Chris Davies still the manager at Birmingham?
Yes.
He is. He's not really rated very well by Birmingham fans at the moment, and to be honest, I don't really rate him. So, whilst Chris Davies is still there, I think they'll be outside the playoffs. Now, 9th place.
Yeah, 9th, I have Birmingham. Narrowly missing out again. The issue is with Chris Davies is that he's very well walking on a tightrope right now, because if Birmingham aren't in a certain position by the first international break at the end of September, he's gone. And I feel like the tempers between the fans and himself towards the end of last season, especially with their away form, it's not going to benefit them at all. So he had his one season. 10th is a good finish for Birmingham, even though the expectations were a little bit higher. But with Birmingham, it's just, I don't think the away form is going to improve, and that's ultimately their Achilles heel. So Birmingham miss out in 9th.
So for 9th place, this is a difficult one. I don't know if this is a bold pick, but I've gone for Southampton to miss out on the playoffs. Last season, they shouldn't have spied. I just want to say this. They would have gone up if they didn't spy. They had the best team on paper in the playoffs, and they just chucked it away because they wanted to spy on Middlesbrough. They would have beaten Middlesbrough, regardless. So to do that, it's just not the best decision. And with them getting a 4-point deduction, a lot of uncertainty around Tonda Eckert as well. He could be facing a ban. It's suddenly gone unstable at Southampton. I do think they will backtrack because of that Spygate. So I've got them to miss out on the playoffs. Now for 8th place.
I don't think this is going to be a popular opinion. 8th, I've gone Burnley. I think they are far weaker than the past two times they've been in this division. They conceded less than 20 goals. I want to say it was like somewhere between 13 and 18 back in, what was it, 24, 25?
Yes.
So yeah, obviously they had Scott Parker, defensive mastermind, and then Vincent Company, who was an unknown, but absolutely stormed the league. Again, they've gone with an unknown quantity in Nicky Hayen. Know nothing about him, but I'm just feeling like Burnley are not as strong as they once were. They'll probably still, well, if they're not in the playoffs at least, then something's gone horribly wrong. But I think Burnley by far will finish the lowest out of the relegated teams.
So for my 8th place pick, I've gone for Wrexham. Narrowly missing out last year. I think between Wrexham and Birmingham, Wrexham will finish the higher of the Hollywood derby. There was questions of putting Wrexham in the playoffs because of Southampton, but ultimately they wasn't in the playoffs because they weren't good enough in the end. And to be honest, I don't think they'll significantly improve in the table. I think that I've actually got them lower, but because it's in the playoffs, they would maybe take it. I think they'll spend the money. I think they'll get some good players in, and that's ultimately why I have them just over the line over Southampton. Now, your 7th place pick.
7th, I've gone Derby. I feel like, despite bringing in Bobby Clark permanently and getting rid of the dead wood, the midfield is by far the weakest in that squad. I mean, that I guess that's what happens when you sign half your players from Blackburn, and your captain is a liability. But the thing is with them, it's like they are on an upward trend, but obviously spending money. But the other teams that I have above them are just far stronger, far more well balanced. And as I said, if Derby can sort out that midfield, I think they're a shoe-in for the playoffs. But right now, they'll be scrapping throughout the whole season.
I'm going to agree with you here. I've also got Derby 7th. I think Derby's squad on paper is a very strong one. Carlton Morris is a very good goal scorer. My only concern for Derby is I feel like their additions, they're not making additions where it strengthens them very much. Bobby Clark is a very good player, but you are right. I look at that midfield and they're not making the midfield signings that they need, especially as well with Patrick Adjimang. With him being out injured for potentially half of the season, that will affect Derby. And it's a question of when he will return. He could have an early return and that could really help Derby, but I don't have them significantly improving, but they're going in the playoffs. 7th place. Now for 6th place, who is your pick?
Well, you had them missing out. I've gone Southampton in 6th. It's still... We still don't know if Tonda will be in charge or not by the time the season kicks off. I think it's a mystery how he hasn't lost his job. But I think the -4 will only cause them to drop a place or two than what they may have finished without the points deduction. But they're still spending money. They've still got a very, very strong championship squad. So regardless if Tonda Eka is the manager or not, they should be up there.
So for my 6th place pick, I've got Borough. I think Borough's chance to go up was last season, especially because they got a bye into the final, despite being beaten by Southampton. They were good for most of the season. They were keeping up, but it's a case of falling short every time for Middlesbrough, to be totally honest. And especially with the teams going down, I don't see a world where Middlesbrough go up automatically. And looking at the playoffs, with the quality of teams that are ahead of them, I think they'll drop off a little bit. Now for 5th place.
5th place, I've got them rising a couple of places from where you had them. I've gone Wrexham. It's unfortunately, from a neutral point of view, this shouldn't ever be a conversation. But Wrexham in the playoffs just feels like it's going to happen next season. Um, uh, Especially with 6 of them competing now, which is also weird. Um, Danny Imre is a good signing from Crystal Palace, but they still need to do more because that back line, it's not going to sort itself. I've been saying it all. I was saying it all year last season. I'm going to say it again if I need to. The defence is rubbish. So sort that out, and they'll be right up there.
So, for my 5th place prediction, I've gone for Norwich. A very underwhelming start to last season was what cost Norwich a playoff place, but in the second half of the season, it's definitely been a massive upward trend. And I'm liking how Norwich are progressing, to be totally honest. They'll be in the playoffs minimum, and I do think they'll continue on their momentum from last season. Now, for your 4th place prediction?
I don't really have a lot to say about them, but I've got Middlesbrough in 4th. They should have, probably not thrown away 2nd the way they did. But they're spending money. They're spending the Hackney money very wisely. So, as I said, I don't have a lot to say. If they're not top 4, let's be real, then it's a disaster season for Middlesbrough. But Hellberg just needs to keep adapting to the Championship rather than stick with his attacking football only, because as brilliant as it was to watch, they weren't scoring. So just sort that out, and you're perfectly fine.
So, for 4th place, I've gotten Millwall, but this could certainly change. I think Millwall definitely was unlucky not to get promoted last season. Ultimately, dropped points in silly games, and that is why we are seeing them in the Championship this season. They got outclassed by Hull in the playoffs, and I think they won't get as close to promotion as they did last season. I definitely wouldn't be surprised if they fell off a little bit, but I do think they still have a very good squad, and if they can manage to turn games they should win into wins, I think they'll be in the playoffs. So Millwall is my 4th place pick. Now for your 3rd place pick.
Well, before I say who I have 3rd, the team I have in 2nd, I'm really putting full confidence into. And I will touch on this 3rd place team in a little bit, a bit more. But I have Wolves in 3rd. I don't want to say too much without giving away my 1st place pick, even though you could probably guess who that is. With Wolves, while they've made some great signings, fantastic, their squad was never that good to begin with. So they're still improving it as time goes on. They'll be up there. They'll probably be top of the league for a lot of the season. But with Wolves, like the team that went down were absolutely hideous. And that Rob Edwards sacking is a bit interesting. Funny, from an outside point of view, because of the way he left Middlesbrough. But I think a lot more improvement still needs to be made.
So for my 3rd place pick, I've gone for Burnley. I think it's not a season where Burnley go up, to be totally honest. I know I've got them 3rd, but I don't really see them going up through the playoffs. Don't get me wrong, they're a very solid Championship team. Every time they're in the Championship, they've been steady. They have gotten 100 points, I'm pretty sure the last 2 times they've been in the Championship. 1st and 2nd, you know what to expect from Burnley in the Championship, but there's got to be a year eventually where a poor season in the Premier League will catch up to Burnley. Will it happen this time? I think they won't go up, so I think it will catch up to them in some regard. And I just think the 2 teams above them are better on paper, and that is why I have them in 3rd place. Now for your 2nd place pick.
I'd just like to point out as well, I do have the top 3 going up. say Wolves to win the playoffs, but I have Big Phil to take Norwich back to the Premier League. Philippe Clement is a wonderful manager. I would say he's the best in the Championship. Maybe you could give a few like other examples and say, oh, hang on, I think he's better, but I think he's proven that he can do it. Despite the thing is with Norwich, if Liam Manning didn't have the shocking start that he had, Norwich would have been probably fourth. So yeah, the upturn in form is enough for me. They've got a very good squad. They're playing great football. They're doing everything they need to do. Norwich second.
So for my second place pick, I've gone for Wolves. I think they've made some very good signings. Jimenez, Trippier, two very good players in their prime. And I know they had a very bad season in the Premier League, but Wolves, I can imagine, well, they've already spent on very good players. But it's a case of, will they be complacent? Will they get a better defence? Because their defence was the problem in the Premier League. And the Championship can certainly punish you for a poor defence as well. So I feel like Wolves need to invest in their defence if they want to go up automatically. But on paper, I do think they will be second place. Now, shock to no one. First place.
Yeah, West Ham, and the difference between West Ham and Wolves for me is that they've both had outside noise over the summer, but West Ham's has been positive, Wolves more negative. Sullivan leaving the higher ups at West Ham was a positive. Another positive, the formerly of Newcastle, Amanda Staveley looks like she's going to be in a 25% stake, so that's also a positive. Spent very little and had a lot of money come in. It's it's a squad that should probably not have gone down in the first place, but West Ham, top of the league, no question.
Do you think West Ham are the biggest club to go down in years?
When you look at it, it's a tough subject, but when you look at it as like historically, since Newcastle, yes.
Yeah, it kind of.
And then Villa before that.
Yeah, I think it kind of reminds me of Newcastle when they went down. Was it 10 years ago now? They got relegated from the Premier League and they just gone straight back up. To be fair, Brighton did give them a run for their money that season, and Wolves could potentially do the same. But I do think their team is the strongest by far on paper. Bowen staying is definitely a big plus. He's an absolutely brilliant player, so to have him in the Championship, he's going to rip most defences apart. And they will get promoted as champions. I hardly see a world where West Ham at least don't go up automatically. I just think they are one of the biggest clubs to go down, and it's just an expectation that they'll go up, to be honest. But you could well get complacent, and there's very good teams who could take your place in promotion. So West Ham definitely do need to be careful, but they are my champions. So those were our 26-27 table prediction. We're not going to be spot on. We're going to be miles away in some regard. So take these predictions with a pinch of salt. We may look like idiots at the end of the season. But those, fingers crossed, those are good predictions. But it's the pitch that sorts out the standings at the end of the season. And we will catch you for the first episode of 26-27 next week. Goodbye.